What's going on, fishing friends? This is the second fishing report of the evening. We are moving down south from the upper Chesapeake. We're moving down south to the South Carolina Inshore Fishing Report. Before we get to that, we have a few quick announcements. The first one, we're super excited about it. The Fishing Channel has a new sponsor. The Fishing Channel's always really encouraged local tackle producers, local rod makers. We really support local here with the Fishing Channel, and our region is the Delmarva region. But we have added Old School Tackle Company to the list of our amazing sponsors. They're from right here in Maryland. They support national causes like Heroes on the Water, and their slogan, which I love, is "If you're not fishing old school, you're not fishing." So we will have Old School Tackle Company products available as part of our question of the evening prizes going forward. So we're really excited about that. As I said, it's 100% family owned and operated. Every lure is homegrown right here in Maryland. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to TFC Plus. It's a lot of additional content, tips from all of the contributors that we already have that are doing our fishing reports, and a lot more. If to do that, you just go to the Fishing Channel YouTube page on either a laptop or an Android phone, and right next to the subscribe button, click join. That is $5 a month, but it's well worth it. There's a ton of additional content, and we're adding more features and more content every single day. For the last bit of news for this entire holiday season, the Fishing Channel has dedicated ourselves to supporting a little girl by the name of Lakeland Draheim. She is dealing with an aggressive form of brain cancer called DIPG. Her mother was kind enough to provide us with a GoFundMe link, which will, allow them to, put some extra money into Lakeland's care. We'll put that GoFundMe link up in the chat here shortly. But, in this season of giving, guys, maybe instead of, getting that loved one an extra gift, move that money into the gift of loving, and provide the Draheims with a little bit of your generosity in this time where they could really, really use it. Having said that, let's bring in the man of the hour, Mr. Chris Tweedy. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you doing? It's nice to see you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. I've been meaning to get like a Santa hat or something.
I was thinking about that before because my hair's a little out of control. So we've been dealing with some pretty warm weather down here, and then this long hair game plan hasn't been working too well lately.
Hey man, you look like a rock star.
Yeah. From the front and the back, it's just hide the bald spot, so it's more or less a glorified comb over.
Well, at least it's not. What is it called? Party in the front. I mean, business in the front, party in the back.
Yeah, I don't know if the wife
party all over.
Exactly. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. We are in the midst of, Anna Stage is helping me fulfill my commitment to myself and to her and to our viewers. And I have committed myself to fishing in the cold weather, regardless of, of temperatures, of climate. So we've been fishing a lot out in the cold. Usually I wimp out and I'm down there fishing with you this time of year.
We've been blessed lately with the weather. It's like in the 70s all this week. So I've been busy as heck running charters for the last few days. The fishing's really starting to get into shape. Are you ready for me to jump in on the
We are ready. We're already getting some questions in, but we are definitely ready. And I've got all the awesome pictures that you share with me as well.
So yeah, those photos. I'm going to talk a little bit about showing what type of fish we're catching this time of year. It's really the late fall, sort of early winter pattern, at least for South Carolina. So the redfish are starting to kind of get into loose schools of very similarly sized fish. So everything you're going to catch from a group of fish coming like in a creek or holding in like a hole somewhere they're all going to be within an inch or so of each other. But we're really starting to kind of get a push of some of the nicer sized trout in. That's in a few of the photos. You can see some of the
Yeah, let's pull out some of these photos. Hang on just a second.
But it's really starting to develop into that really fun time of year. So we're catching. That's from a charter yesterday.
That's a very nice size trout.
What's that?
That's a nice size trout.
Yeah, that's definitely like a really stout, like 19 and a half inch trout. Well, I do my best not to keep much over 20 if we can help it. So it's helpful that these like 2 or 3.5 pound trout in like the 19-inch range are really kind of like folks are happy to take a couple of them home, and I don't mind seeing them leave in the coolers. But so these are all like on the edge of like a pretty shallow creek holding in holes. That we're getting just about everything on artificials at this point. I really don't even try for any kind of bait. I don't throw the net to get any shrimp really, unless I have absolutely like first time out of the gate anglers with me. It's the time of year to experiment, to throw different patterns, to throw different presentations, to try that fluke that sits in the bottom of your bag that you haven't thrown. Cause I'm relying too much on a paddle tail. It's time to grab like the top waters, the suspending twitch baits, and the stuff.
Hard though, isn't it? It's hard though, Chris. It's like that paddle tail. Lady C was telling me about it yesterday. She was like, because we were out pickerel fishing, and I, caught one on a paddle tail. And she was like, it catches everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, if you got dropped on a desert island somewhere, and I think every fisherman that fishes with artificial bait, if they were stuck with one choice, they'd say paddle tail.
Yep, absolutely. And here's what I find: I'll take out like 3 rods or 4 rods now, and I'll force myself to tie something different on each one going out of the gate. So I really don't have the excuse of I don't feel like re-rigging it. I got too much going on. So I'll pick 1 or 2 things that like I spent 10 or 12 bucks on at the tackle shop that all they do is shine in the bottom of the box until they get rusty and then get cycled out into a drawer and replaced with something else that I never use. So this is the time of year, at least for us, that you can really throw and experiment with that. Like I had a guy today that's just been out with me a few times, and he's primarily come out during bait season. So I forced him to just throw paddle tails for the most of the day, and as well as some top water. And he came away with like a 3 or 4 time over, like inshore slam with redfish, trout, and flounder.
3 or 4 times over?
What's that?
So you're saying he got like multiple
4 or 5
flounder, multiple trout, multiple redfish. Yeah.
It's not uncommon for us to catch 25 to I mean, it just depends on the number of anglers. But we're throwing 5 or 6 casts and getting 3 or 4 fish. Like, so it's like 60% of the time you're bringing a fish back.
So let's talk about, you talked about number of anglers and your business. Let's talk about Topwater real quick. Topwater kayak charters. How are you, what are you set up with? How does someone get in touch with you? I know you have your number on the screen, but tell us a little bit about Topwater.
I'm based primarily out of Charleston County, and I run a Hobie fishing kayak-based charter. Typically, I'm running smaller trips, so it's 1 or 2 anglers. It's really like an angler's charter per se. It's for folks that are coming to Charleston and want to catch fish. They're either, say, proficient bass anglers, or they saltwater fish. They just don't want to spend the time trying to find out the fish and figure out the pattern. So I work with folks like that a lot. I'm taking new anglers out, first-time kayakers, referrals from like our local kayak shop. Basically, I work with just about anybody that wants to go. A lot of folks that maybe are new to the area or having trouble figuring out the bite. It's everything from educational to tourist stuff to specific programs of like education and things like that. So it's geared to be most successful with like 2 people or less. But there are occasions with, I know the people or have been with them before that we can make more than that work. But generally speaking, I'll provide everything they need. and I do my best to work my butt off to get folks on the fish, and we're successful a good chunk of the time. So you can reach me at the
That's
phone
awesome.
number there, or my website's carolinatopwater.com, and my Facebook's the same as the charter, Topwater Kayak Charters. So anyway, sorry, thanks.
Ladies, he's typing that in right now. I was remiss and I forgot to announce the prize of the night. Prize for question of the night. We have a really well suited for jigging this time of year combo. We have a kind of key line 3/4 ounce BKD pack of jigs, not BKD, key lime pack of GI jigs, paired with these colors are Pink Delight 10-pack BKD. So
Nice. There you go. You have your electric chicken jig pattern right there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I know why they call it electric chicken, because just looking at it, you're like, oh, it's just like gives you a seizure almost with the bright colors. But that would be the prize for question of the night. I have a question for you,
sure,
Chris. And that is, you said that you take kayak anglers out, well, not kayak anglers, people that have never kayak fished before, right?
Yep.
What would you say is the one thing that you share with these people to get them to flatten out that learning curve? Like the one thing that's most helpful to get these newbies successful, because like that whole idea of taking someone who's never even kayak fished before and getting them on fish blows my mind.
So honestly, my approach is more to take everybody individually. Some people's battle is against their own head. Some folks just take a little bit of time to have the correct sort of balance and mechanics to hold the kayak in position. And if it's a fishing sort of question, I think the thing I point out most to people is that when they're retrieving, the slack in the line is going to be the biggest deficit to identifying a bite. So when they're able to maintain that bottom contact, they tend to be more successful. Next to that, the comment I make the most is that I remark to people that I notice a lot of times that the fish will bite when the jig is stopped or when the bait is not in motion. Like they'll follow it, and the second it stops and they go to steer the kayak or turn their head, scratch their ear, or do something, that's when the fish hits. So I constantly impart upon them to try to put a pause in their retrieve to give that fish sort of that pounce factor, like you would get playing with a cat, sort of like with a feather toy or something like a light or something where it'll pause and jump. So
got several questions from the audience coming in.
Sure.
Carl says, how's the trout bite been for you guys?
So for me, the trout bite's been fantastic. It depends on what you're looking for. Some folks this time of year are really looking for gator trout. They're looking for like that 24 plus inch trout. That's not so much the game that the charter I'm on is going to play. We'll go hunt big trout like that. But for me, the trout bite's been great. It's been that keeper size fish that I'm comfortable with, like that fat 17 to 19 inch fish with a few just over to 20. And the fight's been great. My trout bite's been great in the areas that I fish. However, it can vary greatly up and down the coast this time of year. So like areas to the north of us, like north of Charleston County, once the water cools off there, they're going to have one of the best trout bites in the area, in the state for us. But right now it's kind of tepid. Everybody's kind of cautiously waiting for water temperatures to drop. So really it's about what you're looking for. If it's numbers, keeper fish, and not trophy fish, the bite is starting right now. It's good to go right now. As the water cools over the next few weeks, hopefully between now and New Year's, we should get a lot of reports of the bigger trout. And there are folks catching them, but they tend to be fishing holes with shrimp and like drifting free line shrimp and stuff like that. And they're pulling the big trout off the schools, but they're picking their way through them. So
free line and live shrimp.
I'm not doing stuff like that. That's more of a game for like the spot burning kind of like boat charters that are running from spot to spot, pulling like 5 keepers and run it to the next hole kind of thing. I don't have the ability to run and gun like that. So Carl's asking now what the best lure for trout is. And then frankly, it's going to vary by where you're fishing and the conditions you have. If I'm fishing along a grass line, anything I throw, I'll have confidence in, from a topwater bait to like suspending twitch bait to something along the bottom. If I'm fishing deeper water, I'm going to want to throw a jig, something like the GI jig that we were looking at earlier is the prize for tonight, where it's going to get down to the bottom because I want to fish like in current behind docks and structure and stuff like that and get that jig down deep. So it's just like I say, so much of this is a confidence game. So really throwing the thing that you want is going to be ideal in any situation because so much of the trout bite is a reaction strike. So if there's something you believe works, it's going to work. I don't tend to favor scent so much for trout, but definitely will for redfish. Something flashy and clearer water, something natural looking. And when the water gets a little murkier, start to impart like the chartreuse tails and the some of like the rattle baits and the poppers and like the Paul Browns and things like that that'll kind of add like the popping cork and just the vibration to the water. So I'm usually going to always throw jigs as one of my options. And other than that, suspending twitch baits, some of the smaller lipped baits like the jerk baits and things like that work great. So it just depends on.
I've kind of re-fallen in love with the Rapala SXR10.
Yep.
As long as you can find water, deeper than 2 feet, so you're not just driving it right into the bottom. But like you talked about confidence, I don't care what fish I'm fishing for. When I have that on the end of my line, I feel the most confident. Darn it, man. That's what we're going to say because it's a family show. Yes. Darn it, man. Chris, just curious, are you looking to take on any guides to work with or for you?
So I get this question a few times a year. The thing about kayak fishing charters is it's a relatively niche sort of market. I don't really have the volume of business to extend the opportunity for employment beyond anybody but myself. At this point, anyway, I'm about 3 years into this now. That may be possible at some day, but right now that's not where I'm at with it. I wish I were, but
so you'll keep his resume on file, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. DA Knitman. I got it.
Yeah. Darn it, man. Carl, we're going to come back to you because we got a question coming in from Shore Sharp. Lady C, actually. Lady C gets priority. Carl and Shore Sharp are TFC Plus members. Thank you guys so much. But Lady C's Lady C. I mean,
right. And it would always have to be somebody I've fished with before. I'm certainly comfortable with you guys.
Absolutely. No, Lady C asked, oh, is that what you said? I work for free. Oh my God. I would honestly, if I could,
I'm about due for a visit.
Anyway, if I could eat grass to stay alive, I would go down there and help you for free every day. Shore Sharp asked, do you have a trolling motor on your kayak and what are your thoughts on them?
That's a great question. So I own a trolling motor for my kayak, but I definitely haven't used it yet, mostly because I don't have a battery for it. I have pedal drive Hobie kayaks, so there's really not much of a need for a motor for me, unless I was going to go long distance. Having said that, I used to be the president of a very large South Carolina kayak fishing organization, and my policy has always been that I find I don't have an issue with motors. And here's why. I find that I don't want to be in a position where I have to judge the validity of somebody else's need to use a motor. I don't want to have to judge somebody's disability or handicap or whatever reason that they have that they want to do that. So I don't mind motors per se. I don't use them personally, but I have one for my boat that I would love to use just to get some like 5 miles out and go after some of those big trout that are just out of touch from where I can get with my kayak as is. So
yeah,
I don't think that there's an issue with them recreationally. I know a lot of tournaments kind of limit them, and I know we're kind of short on time, so I'll wrap that up. But by all means, if that's what you want, go for it. It's your kayak. It's your fishing. You do it your way. Don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise.
Man, Tweedy, you're getting better at hosting this show than I am. You're reading the questions, first of all. And like you've got this internal clock that like I was just going to keep talking until Lady C like kicked me in the side. And I was like, we got the next report in a few minutes. It looks like we have one more question from Carl. who asks, clean moving water, always the best. I think he's still talking about trout.
So clean water for sure. Moving water is debatable. Today, some of the best trout that we found were actually sort of like in a little sort of eddy pocket that was adjacent to the main current. So they were holding there at the bottom of the tide, and they were sort of like in a weird spot. They really weren't orienting to like oysters or anything like that. I think they were on the bottom chasing shrimp around. Some of the reds I caught were coughing up little tiny shrimp like the size of the tip of my finger. So clean water for sure, because trout are such a visual feeder that they need that clean water to see, for both to eat and to protect themselves. So moving water can be hard to fish. So typically you'll find them hiding somewhere in the current, just like you would like a freshwater trout, like down low below the current, behind a dock, a piling, or somewhere in the shade as the sun gets high. I would say depth and water clarity are probably my two bigger factors. I'm typically going to be looking for something like 3 to 6 feet in depth, adjacent to some depth change, like maybe off a shelf somewhere relating to that, or hiding behind current and something. And definitely, if you can't see your bait moving through the water when it's like a few feet away from you, you need to either get a different color profile, fish way deeper to get below the dirt, or like find some clean water somewhere. And like eddy pools are the perfect spot for that.
I remember when we were with you and Lady C caught that gator trout. I mean, that was a hammer. That was actually at dead slack tide. I remember you turning and saying, "Yeah, the tide's slack," and I was like, "Oh, does that mean we should time to eat lunch?" And you're like, "Not always." And literally a minute and a half later, that fish was bending her rod into the water. So
what I find is that they'll just reduce their range in terms of a strike. They'll be more cautious about taking it. But if you basically move it in front of their face, they're likely to just reactively strike at it. So
yeah.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say we got to do the question of the night, right?
Well,
I'm glad you can.
Next time here's what we're going to do next time, Chris. I'm going to show you.
You guys can join me.
Yeah. That's it.
All right. So tonight's question of the night.
Next time we're just going to give you a whole screen, and I'm just going to go have a cup of coffee or something.
So your partner is the awesome host, and I'm just making sure you can keep up. All right. So
absolutely. I'm just here to give her a break. I mean, let's be honest. Here's the prize of the night. Got a drum roll.
So based on volume, I think I'm going to go with Carl because he had several good questions. He seems like he's really trying to dial in on the trout bite.
Carl, when he first started following this channel, he was on a tear. He won like 5 weeks in a row. And then he kind of hit a cold streak. I don't know what happened, but glad to have you back on the winning board, Carl. We'll send you these.
I like that combo. That's
I do
a
too.
good looking combo. For me, I'd be throwing that out in like deeper water.
I know where Carl lives. I'm not saying I'm going to come, find you, but I know what part of the world you live in. And this combo is going to be sick here for you, like now. So as soon as you get them, Carl, go fishing, because that's gonna put some big rockfish in your boat.
So before you wrap up, I have one more thing.
Yeah,
and
let's do it.
Your partner is always saying that she appreciates how I tend to look out for the folks. So if you think that you can make good use of me donating you guys a charter to help that young lady, you're more than welcome to do whatever you like with it to help support her. So feel free to talk to me offline about that if you want to later.
You are you're an amazing guy, man. We really appreciate it. And we will.
There's only so much I could do to help, so it's easy when it's just taking somebody fishing. So I'm happy to help.
That's
if you
fantastic.
think you can do something with it, run with it. Go for it. And I'll make a little gift certificate up for them or whatever you want to do with it. Yeah. So if you want to like do a Chinese type auction or like a silent auction or something like that, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. So
that's amazing.
I'll leave it to you guys to figure it out.
Carl's chiming in. Chris, you're a class act. You really are.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
We feel so lucky and blessed to have such a an amazing team of correspondents to do these fishing reports. I mean, I don't know. It's just the group of people that we work with are just all fantastic people. And Chris, you are no exception.
I appreciate the opportunity to share some time with you guys and your audience. So this is one of the things I look forward to every month.
Well, that's great. When we first started it, you were a little bit hesitant. You're like, I don't want to be on camera. And now you're running the show.
Exactly. Yeah. Watch out.
I'm getting the 60 seconds. Like,
yep. We just need to change that T to Tweedy's fishing channel.
That's actually what it already is. We just haven't told you. And Carl's saying, how'd you meet all these great people?
40 days.
Yeah, we actually, that's a lot of it. Is that Lady C and I took a 40-day trip from Maryland all the way down to southern Florida, and we just lucked into meeting a lot of great people, and we've kept these relationships going. But Chris, you are the man. Any final words? Because we got to close out.
Nope. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope everybody has a great holiday season, and I will see you guys next month. And I think I'll throw one of your guys' shirts in with that charter if we can too, whoever wins it.
Perfect. Love it.
Have a great night. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to you, buddy.
Thanks.